Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever found yourself completely hooked on a reality TV show, drawn right into the lives, the drama,
Oh, absolutely. You get invested.
totally invested, and then later you start thinking, wait, what really goes on when the cameras aren't there? Especially when the whole show is built on something so personal, like family, relationships, even faith.
Right. That line between performance and reality gets very blurry.
Exactly. And today, our deep dive is taking us right into that territory. We're looking at reality TV, polygamy, and some, frankly, explosive revelations, all thanks to a new book that's got everyone talking. So our mission today is really to give you a shortcut. We're pulling out the most important bits, the key takeaways from all the recent commentary about Christine Brown-Woolley's new book.
The one everyone's been waiting for.
Right. We'll dig into these claims of long-running deception, try to figure out the real story versus the TV story, and look at the impact on everyone involved. The family, the producers.
Yeah.
Even us, the viewers.
And what's so fascinating, I think, is how this material gives us this unique lens. It's not just about the Brown family, though their story is obviously central.
Right.
It really lets us look at the bigger picture of reality TV itself. What it promises, the pitfalls, and the complexities of something like polygamy as a religious structure.
Yeah.
And then there's the personal side, that long, tough journey of figuring things out, of disclosure after performing for the public for so many years.
Decades, really.
Exactly. Decades. So we'll try to connect those dots, the individual experience and what it means to live your life out loud on screen when the narrative might not be the whole truth.
Prepare for some aha moments, I think is fair to say.
I suspect so.
Yeah.
We might uncover some stuff that was, allegedly hidden in plain sight all along. Makes you rethink the reality part of reality TV.
All right, so let's dive right in. This book by Christine Brown-Woolley. The buzz is intense. The commentary we've seen suggests it's way more than just a memoir. It's being called a major expose.
A tell-all, essentially, yeah.
So what's the initial take? Why is it hitting such a nerve? Is it just the juicy details, or is it something deeper about, what we thought we were watching?
I think it's definitely deeper. The sources we looked at, people who've really read and reread the book, they're pointing to this real sense of viewer upset.
Upset how? Like betrayed?
Kind of, yeah. Because the book allegedly just rips the lid off years of deception within the show itself.
Wow.
The commentary is blunt. One source flat out says the family lied about everything for so many years.
Everything. That's a huge claim, not just editing things favorably.
Apparently not. It's framed as much more fundamental, a systemic thing. The whole picture they presented was built on, lies.
Okay, so that forces us to ask, like you said earlier, where is the line? What's the difference between just, showing your best side for TV?
Right, putting a filter on reality.
Yeah, filtering reality versus actually deceiving people, outright deception.
Exactly. And the sources don't just make the accusation. They point to specific things, concrete examples where viewers might feel like, whoa, I was completely misled here.
Okay, give us some examples. What specific deceptions are being highlighted?
Well, first, there's that big one. The claim Christine's book shows how the whole family deceived TLC and viewers for years. That's the overarching theme.
So, systemic deception. Got it. What else?
Then it gets more personal, digging into Christine's own actions and how they apparently clash with her public image, like the MLM stuff.
Oh, right. She sells those supplements, doesn't she? Natural wellness focus.
Exactly. She's been a big promoter of that lifestyle, those natural products. But the book reportedly says, that she uses specific pharmaceutical meds instead.
Oof. So not practicing what she preaches, essentially.
That's the allegation. And that kind of contradiction, promoting one thing publicly while doing another privately, it really chips away at trust. It suggests maybe it was more about building a brand, maybe for financial reasons.
Regardless of what she actually believed or did.
Precisely. And the commentary argues this isn't just like a minor personal failing. It points towards a pattern, a strategy almost.
A strategy of misrepresentation.
Yeah. Blurring the lines between the public Christine and the private Christine. And if that's happening, it makes you question everything else, right? What else wasn't real? It challenges the integrity of the whole show.
It really shifts it from, oh, that's their edited life, to, was any of it real?
Exactly. Performance versus reality.
Okay, so if the personal stuff, like the supplements, hints at a curated image, the revelations about their faith, their church, That sounds like it takes the deception claims to a whole different level.
It absolutely does. This is where things get really fundamental, according to the sources.
Because the show wasn't just about polygamy in general. It was about their specific way, their church.
Right. And they spent years drawing a line in the sand, on camera, repeatedly saying, we are not like the FLDS.
The Fundamentalist Church, Warren Jeffs' group.
Exactly. The one everyone associates with. The really extreme practices, the abuse, the control. The Browns always presented their church, the AUB, the Apostolic United Brethren, as different, more moderate, more loving, less scary.
They really pushed that angle hard.
They did. But now the commentary on Christine's book claims they knew all along.
Knew what?
That their church, the AUB, was actually, quote, just as bad as the FLDS, and crucially, still is.
Whoa, hold on. They knew it was just as bad, but said the opposite on TV for years.
That's the bombshell allegation. It suggests a conscious, deliberate decision to mislead everyone about the core of their religious life, hiding the potential problems, the harms within their own community.
That's stunning. If that's true, it changes everything about how you see their motivations, their integrity.
It really does. And it raises questions about Christine herself, too. The commentary points out this deep internal conflict she seems to have. #Tag2, the hidden realities of polygamy in the AUB church.
Okay, so if they knew the AUB was just as bad, how does Christine grapple with that in the book? You mentioned an internal conflict.
Yeah, it sounds like she really struggles with it. The sources say she kind of vacillates, goes back and forth.
Between what?
Between these genuinely positive, warm memories of her childhood in the AUB. She apparently talks about community, family, things she loved.
Okay.
But then, in the same breath, she'll admit she was born in a cult and that she raised her children in the cult.
Wow. Holding both those things at once. That's intense.
Classic cognitive dissonance, right? Holding two completely contradictory ideas. The love and familiarity versus the realization of the harm, the oppression.
And that's common for people leaving groups like that?
Very common. It's a huge mental hurdle. And the analysis suggests she still struggles, even in the book, to really critically analyze any mistakes that she made while she was in it. She's still processing, still maybe blaming herself a bit.
That makes sense. It must be incredibly hard to untangle.
Absolutely. And she goes further. She talks about how she feels that culture, that faith, actually makes people narcissistic.
Including herself.
Yeah, she acknowledges tapping into her own levels of narcissism while she was part of it all, which is a pretty self-aware, if difficult, admission.
So this wasn't just about fooling the audience. It was about a whole system affecting them internally, too.
That's what it suggests. It makes you question the whole narrative they presented about their faith, why they stuck to it for so long on TV, and the immense personal struggle Christine must have gone through and is maybe still going through.
Okay, so if the church wasn't what they claimed, and if Christine is saying polygamy in that structure involves systemic issues, what does that do to the show's original premise? The whole polygamy is a civil rights issue angle.
It completely demolishes it, according to the analysis. The source argues really strongly that the kind of polygamy Christine grew up in doesn't really exist without the systemic abuse and oppression and subjugation of women.
That's a powerful statement.
It is, and it directly contradicts that initial pitch they made to the producer, Tim Gibbons, back in 2008, 2009.
Remind us what that pitch was again.
They framed it as a civil rights fight. They argue polygamists were being denied basic rights like other minority groups, and the show could help win public sympathy and maybe even legalize it.
But the sources say that argument doesn't hold water legally or ethically.
Right. The commentary is very clear. Civil rights, generally speaking, cover things like race, gender, sexuality, ethnicity, ensuring equal protection.
But not necessarily lifestyle choices, especially ones with potential harms.
Exactly. The source specifically says civil rights do not usually include polygamy, especially when you get into issues like trafficking and labor trafficking of women and sex trafficking under the guise of religion.
So religious freedom doesn't mean freedom to harm.
That's the core distinction made. You have freedom of religion, but you don't have freedom to use religion to break the law, especially laws related to abuse or coercion.
And Christine admits this in the book, that the civil rights angle failed.
She does. She apparently writes that they were unable to use that argument with legislatures in Utah because it's not a civil rights issue.
Wow. So they knew it wasn't working legally.
Yes. And instead, she says, they had to use and focus on the abuse angle to get laws changed in Utah.
Wait, they focused on abuse? to decriminalize polygamy. That seems counterintuitive.
Well, the idea was likely arguing that criminalization drives abuse underground, making victims less likely to report. But it's a huge pivot, right? From this is our right to we need to address the abuse within this system.
It totally undermines the original happy, functional family image.
Completely. And it acknowledges the reality that polygamy is still a felony in Utah if there's proof of abuse or coercive means.
Coercive means, like manipulation.
Control. Exactly. And the commentary points out that some of Cody's alleged behavior towards Christine, as she describes it, could potentially fit that legal definition.
Okay, so the whole civil rights pitch basically collapsed. What about the practical realities? Did the book reveal how the day-to-day life contradicted that ideal image?
Oh, definitely. The sources highlight some really stark examples that paint a picture very different from the happy, functional family sometimes seen on screen.
Like what?
Well, for instance, the claim that the kids often lacked health insurance.
Seriously, despite the big houses and the TLC money?
Apparently so. Living in these huge, 4,500, 6-foot homes. But basic needs like health coverage weren't consistently met. That points to some serious issues with how resources were managed or prioritized.
Yeah, that's concerning.
Then there's the mention of children raising children, older siblings having to step up and basically parent the younger ones.
Because the parents were stretched too thin?
It suggests not enough parents and not enough love to really go around adequately. A common criticism of these large, complex family structures.
Okay, what else?
Things like inequitable division of assets. Wives apparently not having clear rights to financial property, maybe not even owning the land their houses were on.
So a lack of financial security or autonomy for the wives?
It certainly sounds that way. All these details just expose the harsh realities, the injustices, the practical problems that existed beneath the surface, completely contradicting that initial idealized pitch.
So the shift from civil rights to abuse wasn't just a legal strategy. It reflected the actual problems they were living with.
It seems that way. It reveals this fundamental truth about the practice that the show tried so hard to deny initially. The idealized image just couldn't hold up against the weight of the alleged reality. #Sheg3, Christine's personal trauma and life on screen.
Okay, so beyond the big picture stuff, the church, the legality, the heart of this book seems to be Christine's personal story. The sources talk about her enduring a lot of trauma with Cody and basically living a lie on camera for years.
Yeah, the personal cost seems immense.
What drove that? Why maintain that facade for so long if things were so bad? Just the TV contract? Or was it deeper?
It seems much deeper, rooted in fear and what the sources describe as a really coercive environment. She allegedly lied constantly on camera because she was afraid.
Afraid of what specifically?
Afraid of Cody's reaction off camera. Afraid he'd withdraw affection, maybe stop spending time with her kids.
Wow.
Or even just abandon her entirely. Which, in that kind of system, is a terrifying thought. Your whole life, your security, can feel tied to him.
So it was a survival mechanism.
Absolutely. A classic example. The commentary talks about a huge level of cognitive dissonance and denial that she had to maintain just to function, to survive in that situation day to day, believing one thing, feeling another, but performing the role.
And the book details how this coercion played out in their marriage specifically.
Yes, very directly. It paints a really disturbing picture, actually. The claim is that Cody essentially coerced Christine into a marriage in the first place.
How so?
Because, allegedly, he wasn't attracted to her, didn't genuinely want to marry her for love.
Then why did he?
For clout within the church, the sources say. And simply to get a third wife, which maybe improved his standing or fulfilled some expectation.
So he basically tricked her under false pretenses.
That's the assertion. Made her believe he wanted her when, allegedly, he didn't. That's a profound betrayal right from the start.
That's awful. And did it continue, that lack of genuine connection?
Apparently, yes. The commentary claims he didn't want to be with her the entire time. But here's the really twisted part, according to the sources.
What's that?
He also allegedly denied her the right to be with someone else.
Wait, he didn't want her, but wouldn't let her leave or find happiness elsewhere.
Exactly. Because he didn't believe she could be happy with anyone else. It's presented as his extreme control. He just wanted to have her and control her, but he didn't care to do anything to keep her.
That sounds incredibly controlling, possessive.
The source calls it the very definition of coercion, especially given the context. And it even suggests, under Utah's current law about coercive means and polygamy, Cody could be charged under that for Christine.
That's serious. So the whole marriage narrative shifts from complex choice to something much darker.
It shifts it towards manipulation and control, absolutely, which makes her staying on the show for so long, even while wanting out, make more sense. It wasn't just about a contract. It was about the immense pressure she was under.
And what about the kids? How did living through all this affect them? The show, the family dynamics?
The book is apparently quite open about the negative impact. Christine admits the show has caused a lot of harm to the family.
How so?
Well, the biggest sign is that she says none of her kids want to be on the show anymore. That speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. They lived it, and they want out.
There's a really poignant quote from her daughter, Aspen. She apparently told Christine, "You know what? I think I've lived your life long enough. I want to live my own life now."
Oof, that hits hard. Just wanting your own identity separate from the show.
Exactly. Escaping that public narrative. And truly the youngest. She reportedly hasn't wanted to be on set since Christine left Cody. Christine says she doesn't let her watch the show anymore, and most of the older kids don't either.
So she's trying to protect Truly from it now.
It seems like it. It just underscores the incredible personal cost, not just for Christine, but for the children caught up in this public life that was so different from their private reality.
So it's clear she wanted out maybe from very early on. You mentioned season 1, season 6.
The book apparently says she wanted out in season 1, and the decision got firmer in season 6.
So she was basically faking it for a decade or more while filming.
That's the implication. On her way out the door, the entire time this show was being filmed. Imagine the mental gymnastics, the emotional toll of that, performing this role day in, day out.
It's hard to even fathom. Is there a specific moment or story that really captures that struggle, that disconnect?
There's a really telling anecdote about a commitment ceremony they filmed. You know, one of those symbolic things.
Right, where they recommit or whatever.
Yeah. They were all pouring different colored sand into one container, signifying togetherness. And Christine writes that she was standing there, pouring her sand and thinking,
what?
This is ridiculous. And even more pointedly,
yeah,
I'm not even going to be staying.
Wow. While performing the ritual of staying.
Exactly. And then, get this, 2 weeks later, her little container of sand, the one she poured, it supposedly tipped over and broke.
No way. That's almost too perfectly symbolic.
Right, like a physical sign of the internal break. She herself says she was just playing a role and wasn't authentic until she finally decided to leave and stop playing the game.
So leaving was her moment of authenticity.
It seems like it. And that led to her rebellion, as the source calls it. She started losing her faith, stopped just doing what Cody said, started speaking up more on the show.
And how did Cody react to that?
Apparently by rejecting her more forcefully and doubling down on the wives who would still, quote, lie for him.
So her finding her voice pushed him away.
That's the narrative presented. Her leaving, her rebellion, it wasn't just leaving him, it was leaving the facade, the performance behind. Finally aligning her actions with her true feelings after years of hiding them.
Okay, we have to talk about the producer, Tim Gibbons, because he was there from the start, right? He kind of shaped this whole thing.
Yeah, he was instrumental. He approached them way back when.
And the commentary suggests he had this almost noble vision for the show initially, but then reality hit him hard.
Exactly. He went in with a very specific idea back in 2008, 2009. He genuinely seemed to believe that polygamists were being denied civil rights.
The civil rights angle again.
Yeah. He thought the show could be this vehicle to change minds, to show polygamy as this positive, loving lifestyle, and maybe even win this and legalize it.
So he wanted to counter the negative stereotypes, show they weren't abusive, patriarchal, etc.
Precisely. His vision was to film a show proving that polygamy wasn't about abuse or neglect or inequity, that the families were loving, husbands weren't dictators, the whole package.
And the Browns bought into that vision too initially, believed they were different.
Oh, yeah. Christine apparently writes about how producers warned them all reality television families break up. And the Browns were like, nah, that's not going to happen to us. Total confidence.
So Tim had this idealistic experiment, and then Christine drops the bomb that she's leaving Cody. How did that hit him?
According to the book and the commentary, it hit him hard. Really hard. When Christine and Cody told him, he apparently cried.
The producer cried.
Yeah. And he reportedly said, this was not the show I wanted to film. Just raw disappointment and maybe disillusionment.
Wow. Did he leave right away?
No, he stayed on for another 2 years, trying to manage the fallout, I guess. But he eventually left in 2024.
And the reason given?
Simply that it was too much to film our family falling apart, which suggests it took a real personal toll on him, too.
But was it just the emotional weight? Or did he realize his whole premise, his experiment, had fundamentally failed?
The sources argue it was much more than just emotion. It was this profound realization that his experiment had failed, and maybe even that he'd been misled from the start.
Deceived along with the audience.
That's the suggestion, that Tim was deceived and saw that he had been deceived. Especially when, after Christine left, Cody allegedly became everything that they said they weren't.
More controlling, more abusive.
Yeah. More abusive, more controlling, demanding loyalty, being the patriarch, treating the wives like second-class citizens. All the things the show was supposed to disprove.
So Cody's behavior after she left was the final nail in the coffin for Tim's vision.
It seems like it was undeniable proof that the initial premise was wrong. It was a complete contrast to how they'd pitched themselves in 2009.
And the commentary suggests Tim leaving was also about protecting his own reputation.
There's that implication, yeah.
Yeah.
That staying tied to a failed experiment would be a terrible look professionally. He set out to show one thing, and the reality ended up being the exact opposite.
So the show ended up confirming all the negative stereotypes he wanted to fight against.
Pretty much. The source says it clearly. Polygamy is exactly like we expected it to be. We're seeing the same issues play out.
Like the lack of rights for wives, kids raising kids, not enough resources.
All of it. Inequitable division of assets, wives having no real claim to property, kids raising kids, lack of health insurance despite the big houses. The whole list of systemic problems became visible.
Things the show initially glossed over or denied.
Exactly. And the source suggests Tim knew, once Christine left, that light was going to shine on all of it. And critically, it adds that Tim himself kind of created the problem by allowing them to deceive all of us for such a long time.
Ouch. That's a harsh assessment of the producer's role.
It is. It suggests his departure wasn't just sadness, but maybe a recognition of his own complicity in maintaining the facade and the ultimate failure of the narrative he tried to create. It really underscores the ethical tightrope of reality TV.
Okay, this has been incredibly insightful, digging through all these layers. Christine's book is out there now, telling her story. But the commentary we reviewed raises an interesting point. Maybe she wrote it too soon.
Yeah, that was a fascinating take. The idea that she's still too in it emotionally.
Like 10 years premature was the phrase used. What does that mean for how she understands her own past right now?
It speaks to the really long tail of trauma, especially the kind involving psychological manipulation, like gaslighting. The analyst suggested if she wrote this book 10 years from now, it would be very different.
Why? Because she'd have more distance, more clarity.
Exactly. Right now, she might still be processing everything through the lens of what's described as narcissistic gaslighting, not just from Cody, but maybe even subtly from the production environment itself.
How could production gaslight her?
Just through the questions asked, the narratives framed over years. If you're constantly subtly steered towards a certain view of your reality, it can mess with your head. Gaslighting makes you doubt your own perception, your memory, your sanity.
Right. So recovering from that takes a long, long time.
Oh, definitely. The commentary stressed it takes years for people in these situations to fully grasp the extent of the trauma and abuse without feeling overwhelming guilt or shame. It's a slow process of peeling back layers.
Guilt and shame. Is that where Christine is at now, according to the analysis? Still feeling responsible?
That seems to be the assessment based on the book. The sources say she expresses a lot of shame. She's reportedly embarrassed that she lived this way.
Embarrassed about the choices she made.
Yeah, and embarrassed that she allowed her children to grow up this way, and embarrassed that she allowed him to treat her this way. That self-blame is really common for survivors, but it's part of what needs healing.
So the future book, the hypothetical one written in 10 years, would be different how? Less shame, more.
More clear-eyed recognition, maybe, moving from I did something wrong or I allowed this to, oh my God, I was being abused. Fully internalizing that shift from self-blame to understanding the dynamic.
Does she use the word abuse in the current book?
Apparently she goes to the line of suggesting she wasn't being abused, but she doesn't say it outright, which kind of supports the idea she's still grappling with it, still processing.
So it's a journey, and the book is one step, but maybe not the final word on her own understanding.
Exactly. It's a snapshot of where she is now, which is valid, but maybe not the fully healed perspective she might have later.
Okay, so she wrote the book partly maybe to close this chapter. She wants to move on. But the show, Sister Wives, it's still going, right? Season 20?
Yep, apparently so. Which seems to surprise even Christine.
What does she say about it continuing? Is she okay with it?
She sounds perplexed. She explicitly says she doesn't know why they're still making this show. She genuinely thought leaving Cody meant leaving the show based on her contract.
Because her contract was tied to the plural marriage?
That seems to be her understanding. So another season, season 20, she was like, how can there be anything after all that? Her focus is clear. She wants to move forward with her life.
And the book was part of that, drawing a line.
Yeah, a way for her to close the chapter altogether, she hopes. She says she doesn't want to talk about Cody anymore. She's done going to the past.
But she's presumably in season 20. How does that work if she's done talking about the past?
That's the big question, isn't it? The tension between her desire and whatever contractual reality exists. It highlights that reality TV dilemma.
It's not all negative feelings about the show experience, though, is it? You mentioned complexity earlier.
Right. She does acknowledge the good parts, or at least the positive she takes away. She says the crew has been wonderful, even like uncles to Truly.
So real relationships formed there.
Yeah. And she says, I have loved doing the show. She values the opportunities it gave her, and crucially, she loves who I am today that came from the show and living polygamy.
So she sees the whole experience, even the bad parts, as contributing to her growth, her finding her voice.
It seems that way. It's that complex mix, wanting to close the door on the pain and deception, but acknowledging the journey made her who she is now.
So with Tim Gibbons gone, Christine wanting out, the kids reluctant, what does this mean for the show's future? Can it even continue authentically?
That's the million-dollar question. The commentary really leans into that, asking you, the viewer, if the producer has left, can you really buy into another season knowing that Christine spends 295 pages about how much she didn't believe what she was saying on television?
It definitely makes you skeptical.
Right. And there's speculation that any future storyline involving Cody trying to redeem himself will just be all about damage control, trying to fix his image after all this.
So the reality feels pretty thin at this point.
It feels incredibly strained. The conflict between Christine wanting peace and the show needing drama really highlights the often transactional nature of it all. What reality is left when the main players are saying it was largely a performance, or worse, a lie. It leaves the future of Sister Wives looking very, very shaky in terms of credibility. #tag outro.
Wow, okay. We have covered a lot of ground today, taking this deep dive into Christine's book, The Commentary. It really peels back the layers on Sister Wives, doesn't it?
It really does. What was presented versus what was allegedly happening.
Yeah.
It's a stark contrast.
Yeah, from the whole system of polygamy, which the show tried to normalize but ended up, it seems, exposing the inherent problems and abuse, to the intense personal cost for Christine, living that public life while feeling trapped. It's just much more complex than TV allows. We saw the show pitched on civil rights apparently pivot to dealing with abuse, a family presented as unique, allegedly hiding deep deceptions about their faith, and just the huge toll on Christine, that struggle for authenticity.
And what stands out so clearly is how that line between reality and performance wasn't just blurry, the sources argue. It was actively managed, manipulated for years.
Which impacts everyone, the family, the audience.
Absolutely. Christine's story becomes this really compelling, though sometimes difficult, case study. It forces you to think about the ethics of reality TV, the psychological weight of a public lie, and that fundamental human drive for authenticity. What we see is so rarely the full picture.
Yeah, definitely makes you think.
So maybe a final thought for you, our listeners, to chew on. In this world we live in, so full of carefully crafted images on TV, on social media, everywhere, how much of what we consume is actually real?
And how much is just performance?
Exactly. A performance designed to shape how we see things and what happens to the performers and to us when that performance eventually falls apart and the hidden truths come out.
What's our responsibility as the audience in seeing past the illusion?
That's the question to ponder. How do we navigate this world of curated realities?